Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, welcome everyone today to our July webinar. And thank you, our host sponsor, for captioning, hosting, signing, Jess iYellowo from iYellowo. I will say it separately, right? So today's event is New Perspectives, Technology Bridging the Gap for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Community. And the purpose really for today is to highlight partnerships and technology that will increase equity and access for the deaf and hard of hearing community. We are especially happy today to have President Cardano from Gallaudet, and very excited to hear from our speakers and learn more about Clear to Connect and Dome Audio. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'll tell you very quickly that we are a nonprofit business network focused on education and sharing best practices on including people with disabilities in the workforce, the marketplace, and as entrepreneurs. This is our first of a two-part series focused on the deaf and hard of hearing community. So as you've heard or seen, the system is recording our webinar, and we look forward to being able to host it so you can share it as well. Thank you, Jess. Let's go.
Catherine, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to host this webinar. Before we go ahead and begin, I want to set out a few reminders. As Catherine already mentioned, this event is being recorded and will be shared via link. Any questions or comments, please feel free to type those in the chat, and we will be keeping an eye on that, make sure all of those are addressed. If anything is missed, we will send out responses in the link that we send out with the recording. If anyone needs technical support, please reach out and let me know. We're providing interpreters as well as captioning services. And it is my honor to announce President Cardano, who is joining us today. Her leadership within Gallaudet University has utterly improved the ability and talents for our community, not just within DC locally, but also within the entire disability community. And we are honored that she is here today and joining us.
So Jessica and Catherine, I want to personally thank both of you for coordinating today's event and inviting for me to be here with all of you. You know, disability is a specialty area of which I have so much interest and pride in. I have to say that the team that's assembled here has been able to provide a great deal of energy and vision that helps the national movement for disability as well. So I did want to take a moment to recognize the uniqueness of this group as well, and also to say that Gallaudet is closely partnering with Disability and also the national organization. And there's an important reason for this partnership. You know, we are part of the same ecosystem. And we often talk about that ecosystem here in DC and nationally, and it represents two distinct economies. One is our sign language economy, which now here at Gallaudet, we've been able to estimate that to be worth $2 to $3 billion if you include the entire United States. And a lot of that economy exists right here in the DC area. But the second economy is that general economy for commerce and nonprofit and corporations, all based on a spoken language, and maybe not always English, other spoken language as well, but predominantly an English-based economy. So we have these two economies available to us. And I want to say how honored I am to be here today to be part of this, because in order for deaf people to be successful, we need opportunities to participate in both of those economies that I've mentioned. The sign language economy needs access to the spoken language economy in order to be successful as well. To be able to provide support and consulting, often that comes from individuals in that spoken language economy. So we always are looking to make sure we can have successful connections made between these two economies and recognize the significance of that. So can everyone still see me? Do a quick tech check here to make sure you can. So I wanted to share with you something that I read some time ago, and it's really helped transform my thinking and pertains to this topic today. If you haven't read this yet, I very much encourage you to do so. So this was written in August of 2001 by John Locke Perry. And at that point, back in 2001, he was already introducing this idea that people with disabilities are already natural anchors. And so that's kind of a word that we think about, how we are just national anchors. Individuals with hearing loss, and as we are individuals with hearing loss, it requires a certain level of creativity for us because we so value the connection we make with other human beings. Whether you're a signing deaf person or a deaf person who doesn't sign, someone who's hard of hearing and only uses spoken language, or even someone who is deafblind, regardless of that, you still need that human connection. And technology has become one of our major tools for being able to bridge that gap to enhance the connections and relationships we can form with one another. So I just wanted to share with you a story today about the history of deaf and hard of hearing people that so many are unaware of. You know, deaf people have been using texting technology for 260 years, for 60 years. And you might think, how could that be possible? So back 60 years ago, there were 3 deaf individuals who saw Western Union teletypewriter machines being unused. And they realized with this that they might be able to connect a telephone coupler to that machine, allowing deaf people to be able to communicate with one another. So they invented the telephone coupler that connected to these old teletypewriter machines. And some of you who may remember those old teletypewriters, remember how that system worked and how the telephone connected to it. I was young. I mean, I don't want to tell you my age, but I was young back in the day, 60 years ago, and we got a TTY in my home. My father was the first in our community to get one of these TTY machines. And I can remember watching my father type away on this big device and having the paper printout of that conversation using all of the different signals, GA for go ahead, SK for stop keying, indicating the conversation that was done. And that later has become the texting we use today. So as we see now, the divide between deaf and hearing people becomes smaller and smaller as phones become more portable and mobile. We've been able to shift those couplers and that old system that we had in place to a much more mobile system that we found now with the telephones. So this spirit of innovation has been a part of our community for some time now. TTYs became tools not only for deaf people to use to communicate with one another, but for people who could hear and deaf people to connect with one another. Employers had TTYs, hospitals had TTYs. It was a tool to connect us. And nowadays we have FaceTime, we have Zoom meeting capability, and a variety of other tools, all speaking to the value of technology. So what I know to be true today, as we have meetings and engage in conversations together, you are creating the technologies that will literally transform our experience over the next 60 years to come. So my ask of you is that we continue to hold the value, the need of human connections that we create with one another, to keep the humanity always part of the experience that we bring to our work together. Technology is just one aspect of that humanity. There's attitudinal connections, there's willingness to maybe slow down our communication, to take the additional time and attention necessary to really attend to all of the issues, to make sure that the worldview is seen in multiple ways as it is, and not just one perspective, but that we allow these multiple worldviews to shape our collective thinking. So I have to share with you kind of a funny story. I don't know if you'll find this funny, but when I first got to Gallaudet, there was a brand new center that was created called the Motion Light Capture Lab. That's what it was, the Motion Light Capture Lab. And that lab was used for motion capture capabilities to develop animated videos that could then be translated into stories for young children and adult learners across the globe. So last year, the team came together during COVID and said, you know what, we need to do something a little fun. We always do a holiday card every year at Gallaudet. So they asked me to don the different light nodes so that they could do a motion capture on me as I was signing the holiday greeting. That holiday greeting was captured and recorded, and then they had the bison mascot overlaid with my signing that then created this holiday card. So if you clicked on the QR code, you could see a video of me dressed in the bison mascot, actually signing that holiday greeting. So these innovations are not just fun, but they also have joyful applications. So we don't want to neglect those fun, kind of playful ways that we can connect with one another using technology to entertain one another, because that also builds the human connections as well. I did want to express my deep appreciation for your attention to this very topic. And I say that because I'm seeing more and more, and especially during COVID, the hardest part of COVID, the experience was the mask wearing that was required of us. And the signing and spoken language economy, as I've been involved with the spoken language economy for 30 years and the sign language economy for 30 years, I can tell you, even with all that experience, wearing masks during this time was the most powerful disconnect, if you will. It really disconnected me from the hearing world, from the spoken language users. And for many of us who were deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind, the experience of COVID was just tragic. It made it so difficult for us to connect. And it reminds me once again of the importance of all of us using gestures, the importance that once in America, you know, if we think back to Martha's Vineyard, it was only maybe 3% of the individuals on that island who were deaf, and yet everyone on that island learned sign language from birth. So everyone could very easily switch between either language, and it makes the world become a small village where maybe there's only 2 to 5% of the individuals who are actually deaf, but everyone can sign to communicate. And that speaks to the importance of learning sign language between the age of birth and 3, because it really has advantages on your neurological and brain development and allows for lifelong mapping to occur of that visual language, such that at any point in time later on in your life, if you need to pick up sign language, you're more easily able to do that. That's so important to us, especially as a result of COVID, because one thing I learned in order to navigate through this experience is that people had to become familiar with gesturing, being able to use their hands and body to communicate instead of relying on lip reading and speech as we always have. So of course, I used a lot of technology to help me get through that experience. But of course, today we're speaking more of the importance of technology. And I want to think about the other kinds of technologies, brain science that actually can show the advantage of knowing sign language and having a visual language, and how they can be advantageous to all people, as long as there's an openness to learning. Here in the United States, 1 of 8 people in the world, 1 of 8 individuals by the age of 12 will have a significant hearing loss in both ears. And so I think the topic today is one of the most important topics for us to consider when we think about our future workforce. You know, the young individuals who are becoming members of our workforce or will be members of our workforce need to be able to connect with others and live with hearing loss. We serve every individual who experiences a hearing loss, and that speaks to the rich diversity of our community. This community that's always seeking that human connection as through our living with this experience of hearing loss. So thank you for your work. I look forward to how we can come together to create solutions, come up with innovations, and how we all can be a part of them. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, President Cordano. I was really, Gallaudet close to my heart. My mother used to teach ASL there for many years. I grew up and I just remember helping her, look at papers, or at that time, standing when she would have to record and stand for signing for VHS tapes. So really, I have so many of her VHS tapes from that. And so Gallaudet is something really that a cherished part of my experience. So thank you so much. I briefly wanted to mention that the iYellowo group. So many of you may already be familiar with TCS interpreting and TCS access. So now we are rebranding and it will be called iYellowo. So many people are asking why, we changed the name to iYellowo, and really, for me, my connection is to my upbringing. I'm a CODA, both my parents are deaf, and my last name is spelled iYellowo. And many people would, ask me, how do you pronounce it? So I'm like, it has 3 vowels in a row. AIE, how do you pronounce that? And so I would just say, well, it's I, like me, I, and then the color yellow. So iYellowo. So that is now the brand name for my company. And that's where that came from. So really the iYellowo group, our goal is to remove communication barriers for deaf, blind, and the blind community. And that's really important for us. So now I really want to just introduce our next speaker, Karen Herson, and her team with Clear to Connect.
Thank you, Jess, and thank you, Catherine, for the opportunity to participate in this discussion today. From our team, you'll be hearing from me, Karen Herson. I am the project director of the coalition, and I am also a disabled business owner that works on a variety of communication campaigns to raise awareness around the value of hiring people with disabilities. You'll also be hearing from Bill McCabe, who represents one of the members of the coalition, the Enlisted Association, also known as TRIA, which is a veteran service organization. And lastly, you'll be hearing from Ron Drock, who is a Vietnam veteran and a user of caption telephone service. So if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. So the Clear to Connect Coalition was created about 2 years ago to raise awareness about the value of caption telephone service and the need for quality and accuracy of the captions for the individuals with hearing loss who use this service. We connected with more than 30 veteran service and disability advocacy organizations dedicated to preserving the right for Americans with hearing loss to access the technology they need to communicate using a phone, as is their right under the ADA. And if you want to go to the next slide. So the coalition has been concerned that the FCC has been approving providers of caption telephone service without quality metrics in place. So we've had several meetings with the FCC leadership and members on Capitol Hill. And to have a real impact with the FCC, we felt that they really needed to hear from the actual caption telephone users and organizations that also have members with hearing loss to truly understand the need for this service and to understand the tremendous value. People rely on this service, as we all know, to communicate with their family members, loved ones, doctors, and employers. And obviously during COVID, people have been feeling so isolated and alone, so the accuracy and availability of the service has been even more important than ever. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bill, who will share with you the impact of the coalition and our activities to date. So thank you. You can probably go to the next slide.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Karen, and thank you to Disability In for hosting us and allowing us to share some of the impact our coalition has had over the last few years. My name is Bill McCabe. I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs and Communications for the Enlisted Association, which is a congressionally chartered VSO here in Washington, focused on service members, veterans, and their families. And we actually joined the coalition last year, and we've had some great efforts with our partners, our VSO partners, our disability organization advocacy partners, as well as our federal partners. So as you can see on our slide, we've really been focused on the FCC, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the White House, and on even Capitol Hill. Recently, we've actually been focused on veterans because we found out a few statistics that are unfortunate. It's actually hearing loss and tinnitus are actually the fastest post-war growing disability amongst veterans. And, this is a reason that we're focusing on VHA specifically. And we've actually been able to get some of our information and resources on their website and shared on their social media accounts to get to as many veterans as possible. Obviously, we focus on all Americans with hearing loss and tinnitus, but again, these statistics alone are quite staggering. And we've done the same on Capitol Hill. We've actually reached out to members of Congress and their staff to educate them on what telephone captioning services is, as well as actually sharing that information with their communications staff in order to get it to their constituents and interested parties that may need the service. So with that, actually, this is a perfect segue to turn this over to Mr. Ron Drock, who is actually on the line as well. Ron's actually a Vietnam veteran. He's a user of caption telephone services, and he can give us a brief rundown of his experience with it. So with that, Ron, if you want to take it away, go ahead.
Thanks, Bill. Just a quick background. Before I started losing my hearing in 1998, I really had very minimal exposure to the deaf and hearing impaired world, other than I. King Jordan, Frank Bowe, and Rocky Stone. I started losing my hearing in 98, and it got about 10 or 15 years before it got pretty bad when I started wearing hearing aids. And then it got to the point where hearing aids weren't sufficient with telephone and other usage, where I had a discussion going on or wanted to hear something such as TV. So eventually I was familiar with a TTY, but had never used it because of my work back in the early 70s and throughout. So anyway, before I started using the telephone captioning, I missed out on a lot, and I had to rely very heavily on my wife to handle all the telephone calls and all the conversations, any doctor's appointments. She had to do all the phone calls. She had to do everything to make sure that I knew that I had the right information, because if I relied strictly on my hearing, I misunderstood a heck of a lot, probably 80 to 90% of the conversation I misunderstood. So when the captioning came available, and I got my first captioning phone probably about 3.5 years ago, I started using it. So that not only gave me more independence, but it also gave my wife more independence. So if we were at home and she had an appointment, but we were expecting a call, she would have to stay home until the call came in. After the telephone captioning, she could go and do whatever she had to do, because I would be there and I would be able to handle the telephone call because of the captioning. And one of the nice features that I also like about it is that I can record the call. So if Bill and I are having a phone call conversation about work or about any other thing, I can tell Bill up front that I'm recording this and I'm going to save the recording so I can go back. So if I have any questions, did I really understand Bill correctly? And when he said such and such, I have the transcript I can go back and look at. So I tell you, it's been a lifesaver for me, and I use it daily on phone and a lot of other areas where I use captioning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to present about the coalition. And I think on the next screen, it'll have our contact information if anyone has anything that they want to learn a little bit more. If there are associations on here who would like to be a member, we're also always wanting to engage more people to go with us up on Capitol Hill and just spread awareness. One last thing I'll mention is we recently did a survey, And it really showed that people have no idea that caption telephone service exists. So that's one of our major missions this year too, is just to let people know that this is available for free from obviously from the FCC. And Catherine, you just asked, oh, how do you become a member? I can email you, but essentially it's just showing your commitment that you want to be part of this effort and participating in a few of the calls that we have, maybe 4 a year. And then ideally, if you actually want to come with us up on Capitol Hill, right now it's been virtual, but hopefully it will be in person soon, that we go in person and just brief members of Congress about caption telephone service, about also now video relay service, which I'd love to do another presentation about another time. So I will I can send information on how to join the coalition, and there's no fee to join us.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And just want to briefly add for Catherine and everyone listening that we do a lot of information sharing as well. So we're happy to promote your organization and your efforts, specifically on social media and our distribution channels. And we look forward to partnering with anybody that's interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next presenter is going to be Tim Wright.
Yes.
And he is from Dome Audio. We are thrilled to have him join us today in this community discussion, and your work is very impressive. Thank you so much again, Mr. Wright.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to say welcome and greetings to everyone. And I would like to thank Disability In for this opportunity to present to you today what we have for Dome Audio. And I will be the only presenter today from my company, but I would like to provide everyone some background on some of the other aspects of some of my accomplishments and some of the journey that I've been on that I think could, tie together, relatively speaking, to be very adventurous for everyone listening today. So myself, Tim Wright, I grew up in Neptune, New Jersey, near the shore area. And I, at the age of 13, I picked up a pair of hair clippers because of my love for art. And I started cutting my friends' hair, my relatives' hair, and just a lot of people that I knew in my neighborhood. And what I started to realize, not only was it satisfying my love for art, but I realized that I was making an impact on people's lives because I was able to make them look good and feel good. And as I got older and I started to mature, I realized that there was this reciprocal exchange. And there was a lot that I was learning about the individual's hair I was cutting, the individual themselves, as well as a lot that I can share from my story to them. So it was this, reciprocal exchange of inspiration. And I went to school at Rutgers University, and I was a full-time student, scholar student. I was a full-time football player. That's my background. I love sports, football in particular. I was always a leader and a captain, and I was a full-time barber. So I was juggling and sacrificing those 3 elements of my life. And that's what really started to set my trajectory as an entrepreneur. And so over my course of 5 years while I was at Rutgers University, I've cut several hundreds people, and I had clients that represented all different parts around the world that came to the school Rutgers because Rutgers was one of the most diverse schools in the country. And so I said, one day when I have the means, I want to come back on campus and open up a barbershop hair salon so I can take this one operation that I have, and I want to be able to now bring that into the world so that the world can receive what's been built. And so I entered into the NFL. I had an opportunity and I made the team. I was an undrafted free agent, made the team to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was my coach there that gave me the opportunity. And then going into my second year after having a successful rookie campaign with breaking the franchise record for touchdowns and tying the most catches with 54 catches in the NFL in the last decade. And I had got a tap on my shoulder. And right in the middle of training camp, they told me, we're going to trade you to the New England Patriots. And so at the time, I was about 22 years old. And in a matter of 3 hours, I was on a flight from Tampa Bay and landed in New England. And I walked into that building and you could sense the excellence and success that the Patriots organization puts out into the field of sports and into the world of business. And I went in and I got introduced to Bill Belichick, and he shook my hand and he said, "Hey, Tim, welcome to the Patriots. But now you got to learn 60 plays overnight because you're starting in the game tomorrow and you're going to catch the first pass." And then they took me into the locker room and I'm walking past guys that are future Hall of Famers, Pro Bowl players, and they walk me up to Tom Brady, and Tom Brady goes, "Hey, Tim, welcome to the Patriots. I know all about you. I'm so excited you're here. We've been looking for a player like you." And I look up and my locker is next to Tom Brady. And at the age of 22, Tom Brady was, I think he was about 40 or 41 years old. And I used to play the video game Madden using Tom Brady and the Patriots. So that was like a dream come true. And now to be locker mates next to him. And then several months later, we look up, I ended up catching 5 touchdowns from Tom Brady and bringing this hardware home, which is the Super Bowl champion ring. And now I have that, and I'm able to, obviously showcase that to the world in terms of just understanding the hard work and this prestigious award. There's literally only about 1,000 individuals in the world who has won a Super Bowl. So it's an honor for me to be able to have this on my finger and, obviously show people around the world what that's about. But that then led me into my upbringing of being able to, connect with individuals from just cutting hair and being able to understand all walks of life, people's story, people's background. And what that led me to was truly becoming a humanitarian. And so I founded my foundation, my family foundation, the Right Way Academy, in 2015. And right around that time, I was introduced to Ben White, who is the founder and developer of Dome Audio. And at the time we got introduced, he was working on another technology that was a training device that we basically did drills together, and we started to create our relationship. And so I went on to continue my NFL career, and I knew that, yes, NFL stood for National Football League, but it also stands for not for long. And so I had the blessing and honor in 2016 to be able to come back on campus at Rutgers and open up the first barbershop hair salon on any major campus in the country, called The Right Cut. And so that pretty much was my backstory and what's evolving today. And so I'm coming up this September celebrating my 5th year anniversary for The Right Cut. But now I'm on a journey and a path with Dome Audio to bring the world the future of sound. And so my partner, his background was in the music industry for 25 years as a songwriter, producer, and musician. And he had got his hands on a pair of Aftershok's bone conduction headphones. And when he put those headphones on, he said that they sound good for, background music or audio books or even podcasts, but it doesn't provide that full fidelity audio experience that everyone looks for in your conventional headphones. And so when he got his hands on that, he said, "I think there's an opportunity to make this bone conduction technology better." And so he said, 99.9% of bone conduction headphones have 2 speakers in them. And he said, if we added 2 more speakers to make a 4-speaker device, and when they say bone conduction speakers, they usually classify them as transducers. And so he said, if we can make these 2 speaker systems be a 4-speaker system, we can now provide a unique and more full fidelity experience for users. And that's what gave birth to Dome Audio. And so he said, if we have 4 speakers, now we need to create a design that can house the 4 speakers. And now, as you see in this image, that's where that crescent shaped design came into play. And that's what really started the evolution of Dome Audio. And so what we have today is a disruptive, triple patented headphone technology. And we are on a mission to impact the way the world experiences sound. So this headphone will allow you to listen to your music and take your phone calls while seamlessly hearing the world around you. But then there's times when you want to block out the outside world and go into a privacy mode. We have this interchangeable component called a dome cover that you attach to the frame of the headphone. And this dome cover amplifies the music that you're listening to. It isolates the sound, but it blocks out the outside world. So you have that option of open ear, full fidelity experience, or going into a privacy mode with the dome covers. But on the face of the dome cover is a blank canvas, which allows us to collaborate and do licensing opportunities with brands, celebrities, organizations, nations, countries. Anything that has a logo or icon could be on the face of this dome cover. And that's what creates conversation into these various markets. And so the impact of the technology and the mission that we're truly on with this purpose is to be able to connect the world through sound. And bone conduction, as we know, is a form of listening and a form of technology that sends the sound through the bone directly into the cochlea, which is the inner ear, where all other headphones on the market in the conventional sense, such as Beats, Bose, Apple AirPods, Sennheiser, anything that you can think of in the conventional lanes of headphones, that's what basically blocks you out from the outside world. But as we know, with the community of the hard of hearing, that they can't necessarily listen to sound like everyone else could listen to sound through the form of air conduction. And so with this introduction of bone conduction, we're now providing a safer, more effective form of listening for folks that suffer from hard of hearing. And so with the impact side, we have noticed that there are nearly half a billion people in the world who suffer from hard of hearing, that we have an addressable market to be able to bring them an ultimate headphone experience that they may never had before. And so we're really excited about that because there are various folks on this call today that obviously fit within this scope of the hard of hearing space that can definitely be able to bring elements that can enhance the dome headphones and enhance the technology that we're bringing. But here's a platform that I think we can really be transformative. So for every software that's been created in the world, there's a hardware element that needs that the software needs it to make sense. And so we're creating a proprietary app for Dome Audio. And then you have the actual hardware component, which are the headphones. And with this proprietary app, we're unleashing some one-of-a-kind and first-of-a-kind experiences. So if you can imagine going to a live sporting event, now you can actually watch the game live while hearing live commentary through the bone conduction headphone, right through our proprietary app. You can also have where you can change EQ settings and frequencies right through the app, so you can have your own unique listening experience. You can also be on a tour of any part of the world. You could be on a tour guide going around a university or college or going around a museum, and the tour guide could be speaking through the headphone in their actual language, while the folks who are listening to the commentary or the voice that the actual presenter is speaking through, they can actually select their preferred language through the actual device and hear that seamlessly in real time. And so with this platform of the software that we're creating, there's an open platform for anyone and any type of technology or innovation that they're creating that could literally be housed right within the proprietary app of Dome. And then that can be translated right through actually the headphone that we're providing. So those are some various ways that folks can actually, come on board with their technological advancements and really be able to enhance and make more and more impact within the deaf and hard of hearing community. And so what I would like to offer today is the opportunity for any partners that would like to join this mission with Dome Audio. Of course, any experiences that we can have within, the medical trials or any type of, folks within the community that would like to experience our prototypes and what we have today, there's an opportunity to be able to do that as well. And what we're on a mission of today, one of our goals is we're raising capital to be able to drive this innovation and bring it to market within the next several months. So we're at stage 4 of 7 stages to be able to bring this technology to a manufacturable state. We already have the infrastructure of Dome Audio, such as our company and our team, already intact. We have several partners within the actual manufacturing element of Dome, and then also the fulfillment and the 3PL as well. So the instruments and the structure is already in place. But what this opportunity is showing us is that we can have folks be able to join Dome Audio with a capital investment. And what we would like to do one day is to be able to position Dome for an acquisition where a part of the company could be able to be sold to an Apple or a Google or a Microsoft, and they could put their resources behind the technology to be able to get these units out to the world by the masses. And so that's where the potential ROI, of course, as a potential investor will come into play. But our mission is to be able to get as many units in the world as possible to make this global impact. And so in 2014, just to give you some context and perspective of what this potential opportunity to be, in 2014, Beats by Dre got acquired by Apple Inc. for $3.3 billion. And they had no proprietary technology. They had no patents that were granted on the technology. And they just literally created and took a headphone off the shelf, and they put their logo on the side of the headphone and started putting it on the heads of celebrities and music videos and movies for product placement. And they drove that company to a 3.3 billion acquisition. Well, now with Dome Audio, we have an opportunity with our triple patented technology and obviously more technology that we're bringing out through our IP along the journey. And we're going to be able to bring this to the world and obviously bring this to millions of heads around the world, that with the IP portfolio of Dome Audio, with the various brands and celebrities and organizations and continents and countries that we'll be able to collaborate with, and also with the nearly 500 million people in the world that suffer from the condition of hard of hearing, we now can bring all that together through sales and make an impact that could then position a company for a major acquisition. So that's where we are today. And our purpose is to impact the way the world experiences sound. And just to give you guys a quick tutorial of the technology, I have it next to me, which is our prototypes. And I would like to show you what we have. So when I said my partner created this idea in his mind from scratch of innovating this product, he wanted to create a branding keepsake. And what this is a charging case that you can leave stationary on your desk or your dresser at home. And once you open up this charging case, this is where you actually store your headphones. So when you slide your headphones in, this is where the Dome logo shows you how charged your headphones are. And then whatever dome cover you're wearing for the day, that's where you can actually store your dome cover. So whatever brand or organization or country, whatever celebrity we collaborate with, they can literally have their own custom case that can be stored and be a branding keepsake for whoever we collaborate with. And then we have a portable charging case, which is another innovation. So as you're moving around the world, you can actually charge your headphone in our portable charging case. And so when you open this up here, this is where you store your headphones and your dome covers. And then you can actually plug your headphones in and charge it, as well as any other devices that you have that could be USB assembled or any other type of port. You can actually charge that on the go as well. And so here's a look at our prototype 4.0. And as you can see here, this is the crescent-shaped design that wraps around the ear. And these are the 4 speakers that we have, where all the other bone conduction headphones only have 2 speakers, which sit on the front on the jawbones. Dome Audio has 4 speakers for the full fidelity audio experience. And so this is where we will have mics on the front, dual mics on the front. We'll also have a hardwire where you can hardwire plug into any other device, as well as charging it on the go as well. And then here's our dome covers, which is we call it headphone real estate and mobile billboards. So this is a blank canvas that allows us to do our collaborations with any organization or brand. And so that's where the logo would rest right on the front of this. And then any consumer that wants to go into a privacy mode, that's where you literally just pop this dome cover on just like this. And now it essentially turns into a conventional headphone, but this allows you to block out the outside world and go into a privacy mode. And so just to give you a quick example of some of the concepts that we have in place, as you see here, I went to Rutgers University and we already have the license with the logo of Rutgers. And obviously you can think about this with Gallaudet University and having that logo on there as well. But this is a concept cover with the dome cover. So you can imagine students, alumni, professors, anybody that's a part of the university could walk around and they could be utilizing this technology while also representing the brand of the university as well. And then we have an example of some other brands here like Supreme. This is a fashion brand that has used collaborations with other brands like Louis Vuitton to create conversation. We also have where, if you think about countries and continents and nations, this is the Pan-African flag. So this is to give you an example of how even with the Olympics right now, the Dome X Olympics, you can have your country represented on your dome covers and everybody can be consuming that as well. And then I got two more examples for you here. This is an example of Louis Vuitton as a fashion brand, and how we can collaborate with fashion brands as well. And then last but not least, as you can see, Dome Audio is a platform that will literally connect the world, of course, through providing an audio experience where folks who suffer from hard of hearing will be able to listen into it, but also the folks who may not suffer from hard of hearing also can listen to it. But now, from a human standpoint and bringing the world together, we're bringing both sides for the first time that can collectively take on this experience, as well as showcasing the different brands, the different celebrities, organizations, and nations around the world were able to use the platform of dome covers to express that. But then there'll come a point where folks around the world will say, wow, Dome is connected and collaborating with some of the highest brands and organizations in the world, right? And then they'll say, I wish I can create my own pair of dome covers. And if you guys look in the name Dome, it also spells out do me. So Dome also spells do me. And so now you can go online and you can customize your own pair of dome covers for yourself, your family, your own organization, or your own company. And that's something that we could continue to expand and drive the elements of Dome for more and more people around the world to be able to come together. So I want to thank you guys so much for the opportunity. And if you don't mind, can you go to the next slide? Because there's a point that I want to make. So the basic function and design of headphones have not changed since they were invented in 1910 by Nathan Baldwin. And now, after 110 years, a revolutionary headphone experience by Dome Audio has now emerged. And so I want to leave you guys with that. And if there's any way that you would like to join this mission as a partner, as an investor, for folks who would like to experience the prototypes and any clinical trials that we can get this into the world, especially into the hard of hearing, you can reach me at tim.wright@domeaudioinc.com, or you can visit our website, domeaudioinc.com, and that's where you can also find more information on our mission, on our vision, on what we're bringing into the world, and of course, the investment opportunity as well. So I want to thank everyone for listening to my story, listening to what we have with Dome Audio and the impact we want to make into the world. I thank you guys so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Hey, this is Catherine McCary again. Thank you, Tim, and thank you for all of our speakers. I was going to look at the chat, and our chair, Sophie Howard, says, have you gone on Shark Tank?
No, we haven't went on Shark Tank. Fortunately, if anyone who is not aware of this platform, is called Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a new audio-based platform which literally all corners of the world, people can create a profile and they can select their interests and they can be in these rooms that's based on different topics and interests. So I hover, sometimes I dabble in the room and it's called the pitch room. And I'm able to pitch to, angel investors and folks in the audience who would like to invest, and people just hear the presentation. Of course, it's a more condensed, short form presentation, but I've been in there for the last few months and we've garnered a lot of interest from investors who are now at the table doing their diligence on Dome and eventually going to be coming on. So I haven't went into the Shark Tank route, but there is a different form of Shark Tank that I was able to take advantage of. So now, thank you for that question.
Sure. And here's a learning opportunity from Christy Abrams, who said to ask all the speakers to turn on your camera. Hard of hearing people rely on face reading, even with having captions. We need both. So we've learned that's important. and we're always learning in the disability community, what's appropriate, what helps. The language is important for sure. So wanted to see, so Karen is saying that there are some accessibility issues with Clubhouse. So we need to work with them as well.
Yes, and guess what, Catherine? So this was something that I just said in a room one day, and I said Dome Audio will become the official headphone of Clubhouse. So this would give folks from all around the world the ability to tap into the audio experience of obviously the different discussions of the rooms, but it would also give Clubhouse the opportunity to monetize their brand, because now folks can have the Clubhouse Dome covers, right, as they're listening to it. But it will also, through our Dome app and the various ways that anyone in this room can create the captioning and whatever through the actual Dome app, we can now bring that to life for Clubhouse and all the millions of hundreds of millions of users they now have on that platform right through the app. So that's something I just spoke into the air, and I'm speaking it into existence. So absolutely, we can bring that to life.
Great. Karen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say thanks, Tim, for bringing that up. The disability community is very involved in Clubhouse, and there's so many different rooms, and I was in there quite a bit way back when, but it is really interesting for entrepreneurs with disabilities, for different issues, and just to be able to have just fascinating discussions about everything. I think Clubhouse is an interesting platform, but again, for the hearing impaired, it's all, it's just all listening. So it's very challenging.
Absolutely, yes. So we can make some impact on that platform for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Ron, did you have any questions or comments based on what you've heard from, not just for your presentation, but from Tim Rondrak?
Hey, Ron, did you hear the question from Catherine? Was there any feedback or anything? There he goes. Can you hear us, Ron? Yes,
I'm
there you
sorry,
go.
I missed the question. I don't know how.
No problem. Go ahead, Catherine.
So Ron, I was wondering if you had some comments or questions for Tim.
Well, I sent him a personal message that I'm interested in participating in any way. One of the things that I really miss in having lost my hearing, as I mentioned earlier, not only am I hearing impaired, I have a more difficult problem in word recognition. So even though I may hear you 100%, I may only understand 80% of what you're saying. And music is the one thing that I miss, because unless it's an old song from the 50s, 60s, or 70s, not even 70s, I'm older than that, but the 50s and 60s, when I know the song, I know the tune, and I know the words, or at least most of them, I can enjoy that kind of music. We went to see the Temptations up in New York a couple of years ago, and even though I had the loop, it didn't work. I couldn't understand the words, but I knew the music, and I enjoyed it immensely. So I don't listen to the radio. I don't listen to the news on the radio, because if we're driving long distance, my wife likes to have the radio on. It actually annoys me because it's too much noise for me. When I'm concentrating, I want silence. So anyway, I look forward to learning more and perhaps participating in some way.
Yes, no, thank you for that feedback, Ron. And actually, you had mentioned, even when TV is playing, you can't, from a full experience, be able to take actual commentary or the audio from television in real time. So that's one of the elements we want to bring into our actual app, where you can connect to devices that are playing audio while wearing the actual headphones, and still seamlessly being able to have a conversation around your household or your workplace. There was another experience that you had mentioned that I'm trying to recall, that we can actually now bring that into the actual app, or when you're traveling on the road in a vehicle, there are platforms like radio stations or streaming apps, music streaming apps that we can bring into our app, that can then seamlessly be able to translate that experience through the headphones. So those are all the things that we want to bring within the actual software side that can then be, streamed right through the actual hardware side of Dome Audio. So we want to bring those worlds together. We want to be able to bring that experience together for folks that really need that. So thank you so much.
All right, that's great. I'm also looking at some more messages. One for you is, I was trying to see if I could get Sophie to actually ask you, but many of our organizations use employee resource groups or business resource groups. And probably most of our members for DC Metro have a ERG focused on disability inclusion. And so Sophie was suggesting perhaps at some of our companies in those employee resource groups, which obviously also include people who are hard of hearing and deaf along with other disabilities, but perhaps they could help you do some testing.
Amazing.
So make sure that we get you to that. And then there's also, you're a great speaker comment.
Thank you.
And this is a question that maybe we're learning from technology is, I wish you would have enabled the subtitle transcript to be saved. I'm not sure how. Thank you. Okay, everyone will have the transcript. There you go.
Awesome.
That's wonderful. And do we still have Bill or do we still have Bobby?
No, unfortunately, Bill had to jump off onto another call.
Do we have Bobby Cardano still? Maybe not. I really wanted to thank her so much for her remarks. I thought she was just spot on to what we were talking about today. And she has been really an important part of our organization. Not only has she supported us and invited us to Gallaudet to learn more for so many ways, we are also pleased to have a member of Gallaudet on our board of directors. So we are really closely connected with them. Next month in August, we'll be meeting John Macco, who is the Rochester Institute of Technology National Technical Institute for the Deaf. And we're also hoping, and Jess, maybe you could take a little teaser for us of the types of folks that you're going to be introducing in our August event that you are have invited to speak.
Sure. So we will be hosting a panel. And the panel members will be members of the deaf and hard of hearing community. So we'll be asking them how technology today has changed and has changed for their ability to be included in the workforce. So different types of equipment, what kind of technology is available for them, and then comparing it with previous technology or before now, how that compares. Did it improve or not? And then what other employers, what other employers can do to make sure that their workplace is more accessible, and what kinds of inclusive technology to use.
Great. I also really, and I'm sure in this community that you all have had lots of conversations about mask wearing. It was because I started wearing a mask, as everyone else had, that I discovered that I also had hearing loss and had now am officially hard of hearing. So I have learned to appreciate captioning. I have learned to be mindful of being in the same room when someone is either listening or talking to me. I saw several articles about masks that were created with clear plastic, and I don't really know whether that's had caught on, but I thought it was interesting. So this has been very much helpful for me to hear and learn more about the deaf and hard of hearing community. And I really do appreciate everyone's presentation and the good questions. We're going to let you off early because it looks like it's a beautiful day today. Perhaps you can take time to not be on Zoom for another 30 minutes and enjoy the day. If there are questions, if you wouldn't mind just putting up the slide with the resources on them, if you can. There are some resources, and if you can't see them right now, you will see them in the recording where you can find information to continue your learning more. And if, of course, you want to reach out to any of our presenters, please do. And feel free, once you have the link, to share it in your communities and your businesses. Jess, anything you'd like to say as we close up?
Hold on one second. Sorry.
I think that Bobby is still on. Is she? Great, thank you. So there are some resources. We have a monthly newsletter. We have a sister organization in Richmond, Virginia called the Virginia Ability. There's the Office of Disability Employment Policy, the Job Accommodation Network, and Ask Earn, as well as PEAT. They're all funded through the Department of Labor. The National Organization on Disability, the National Business and Disability Council, the Mid-Atlantic ADA Center, and then Disability In, which is the mothership of all of our Disability In chapters. And we will be sending out information for our August event and look forward to seeing you again. Thank you all so much. And Jess, if you are fine just signing us off, or if you want to say anything, please do.
Thank you everyone for joining, and I will see you next month.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.